Hi everyone, welcome to 1% Better podcast with myself, Dalton Tessia. I am here today with Ethan. Me and Ethan have been training for not the longest of time, but for the past couple of months, which has been pretty good. And I'm glad to have him on here. So Ethan, say hi and just introduce yourself a little bit more as well.
Um, I'm Ethan. I've been training with Dalton probably since September-ish. That sort
Yeah,
of time when he
probably
came around it.
probably around that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Helped me loads. Helped me get into a training routine that I quite enjoy. Um, Incredibly knowledgeable, and just really enjoy training with him. Hope to keep carrying it on. And yeah, thanks for having me on this.
Oh, that's cool. So tell me when you kind of started training yourself, again before meeting myself or being with the gym and whatnot, and what made you start?
I think it was back. I was 16, I want to say, when I could officially when I was officially allowed to join the gym at my sports club, cricket club, which was the age limit that they had set, but it's never really took off until about what September 2020, I want to say, when I did my first membership at my local gym, and then kind of progressed on through that, but uni kind of took over, so then it all started properly in September when I started training 5 days a week.
Okay, so obviously you found your like stepping stone into like a better program, which more beneficial for you.
Oh, massively.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Obviously with today's podcast, we're going over again a bit of everything with the diet, training, rest days, quantity over quality, or quality over
Yeah.
quantity, and then obviously just a general chat around that as well. So what we'll do, we'll start off with the diet and training regime, and then we're going to go from there. So again, you've kind of spoken about you going into a 5 day kind of working routine. Again, talk a bit more about your split and kind of why you've chosen that a little bit more now than from what you did from the start when you started training.
Um, well, 5 days a week practically because I have more free time now. For the past 3 years, I was at uni, so that kind of took the precedent of everything. But yeah, 5 days a week with the weekends off. Obviously, I work weekends, so it makes it a bit more difficult. I'm also a lot more tired on the weekends as well. But apart from that, yeah, 5 days a week, 3 days with yourself, and then 2 days on my own, kind of like programming, I guess. But yeah, Monday to Friday. Usually train in the evenings. I'm not much of a morning person, as I think you found out this morning.
You woke up at like 12, didn't you, or something like that?
I woke up at 11:30. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, it's
Um,
good enough.
um, but no, yeah, Monday to Friday, and then try and do it's most it's mostly leg training. Um, Given the type of style that I kind of do, it's a lot of squatting.
Okay, so tell me what kind of style you do. I know, but for the audience, for instance, what kind of
Okay,
style do
so
you train?
I'm well, come what was it, January, I started trying to do a lot more Olympic weightlifting training. So clean and jerks and snatching. So trying to include or like get all of that style training. So it's not your general bodybuilding training. It's not CrossFit or that kind of metabolic conditioning style of training. It's 1 to 4 reps of anything that I'm trying to do. So whether that be clean jerks, clean pulls, um, snatches, snatch balances, all relatively heavy, um, but not a lot of quantity. So getting the technique down and then building the weight up.
Cool. We'll go on to that later. Obviously, we speak about quality over quantity and quantity over quality. But that's cool. So, what made you go into more of a kind of Olympic lifting sort of style over like the bodybuilding that you spoke about?
Um, I found bodybuilding quite boring, tedious, and long. Plus, it was something that not really a lot of people do or enjoy. But I quite enjoy the Olympic weightlifting side. Plus, I want to compete one day, I guess, or get to a level where I can compete. But right now, that's quite a way off.
I mean, obviously knowing your stats and whatnot, you're getting quite a lot of progression in there, which is quite good. PBs and whatnot.
I think a lot of that comes under the technique bit. And then you also playing towards my ego a little bit more.
I do try to push you as much as I can. Yeah. No, that's good though.
Which is fairly annoying, but we move.
Move. Indeed, mate. That's cool though. Obviously, there's different styles of training which people prefer, people follow. Again, due to lifestyle, which again means to have less time to train or more time to train. So this is where people obviously choose that style of training to best suit them, don't
they? Ironically, it was probably the more CrossFit style type of coaching that got me into Olympic weightlifting. For a lot of people who know me, I don't enjoy cardio. Which, so doing that kind of Olympic style or Olympic lifting style training doesn't really, it benefits me more because I don't have to do all the, it's 1 or 4 reps followed by a 3 to 4 minute break and then you go again. CrossFit is keeping it going. And
you have the Metcon capacity side of things, which is obviously even I find that quite hard as well. But I know for a fact you don't want to do it
about the whole entire time.
Yeah, it's great fun. Trying to make you do it as well is hilarious. Yeah, it's good though.
Not for me, it isn't.
I know, mate. I hate it just as much as you do, but it's got to be done sometimes. It's good to start it as well.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. So from training, let's go a little bit more into dieting. What's your perspective on dieting, and what do you do?
So my diet is actually fairly poor. It's got better, but it's more, I try and get in 3 or 4 meals a day, wherever that may come. But just really focusing more on the calorie side of it, and just making sure, because I just won't have any energy at all if I don't eat enough. So no matter really I don't really take into account what I eat. Obviously that's going to have some effect on my training and whatnot, but no, it's just whatever I've got in the house.
Okay, so do you, obviously you said you look at calories more than anything, do you track your calories or anything like that, or you just kind of have a guesstimate and know what you're kind of having?
I kind of know what I'm eating just because I'm eating the same kind of things each day. Yeah. Obviously I try and get around 3,000, which is my goal each day.
Okay.
But if I'm somewhere within that range, as long as I'm eating over my maintenance, I'm happy.
Okay, that's good. So you're trying to get stronger, get a bit bigger alongside that at the same time to progress your lifts. Okay, that's cool.
I just don't want to as long as I'm eating within that 2,800 to 3,100 range. I don't want to be putting on much fat. I want to be trying to gain. So kind of like that main gaining phase. You know what I mean?
Of course. So what's made you kind of not kind of tracking everything you do? So obviously as a coach, I don't force it on people, but again, it's an option that will help of an insight of what you're having. So what makes you just kind of guess what you're having, even though it's very, very similar compared to tracking what you do and potentially finding more progress out of that?
I mean, I used to track it. I used to track it quite religiously. So like everything would be weighed, everything would be measured. Obviously, I still like weigh things to know what I'm having. Like if I'm having pasta, it'll 100 grams of dried pasta or whatever. But I know kind of like what's in food. Like whenever I have a tuna pasta, for example, I know exactly what's in that. I can see on the the packaging, like how much is in that, or how much is, I just adjust it for what I need. But when I used to track it is when I was dieting, not really reverse dieting, if you get that.
Yeah, so of course.
If I was on a cut, then I'd make sure that what I'm putting into my body is helping me towards that goal. But since I'm not trying to do bodybuilding or, trying to build muscle essentially and then cut back on it, I'm actually just looking for it is in performance based, like with my lifts. Obviously,
okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Eating more, but right now it's eating to perform, not eating to.
Yeah, of course. You got your goal, and you find it more comfortable. Obviously, you said you tracked beforehand, and now you kind of don't. You kind of fall into that lifestyle where it's a lot more easier. Do you find that's because it's less stressful, or at the same time, and at the same time, it's obviously just easier for you to do because you kind of have the knowledge of what you're doing. So you've gone through that stage of tracking what you need to do, gaining some knowledge.
Yeah.
Carry on.
I mean, I eat a lot of takeaways anyway.
Okay.
If I'm tracking that, I mean, it's going to be over and over of what I need. Just like if I have a Domino's, for example, it's going to be over my 3,000 calorie limit, in which that kind of just makes it a little bit, puts me in a bad headspace, put it that way.
Yeah, it can be stressful, and obviously that's why it's not always the right thing for people to do. Just as a lifestyle factor, it can be a bit more stressful, can't it? That's cool though. Let's move on to the next one then. Obviously, you've got your kind of style of training, and obviously your thoughts on your own process of kind of dieting and whatnot. So let's go back a little bit more onto the exercise side of things. You spoke a little bit on like your style of training and why you kind of do it, but then let's talk about the exercises. So let's narrow it down a little bit more. And how do you find the right exercises for what you're trying to do, and what benefits you the most?
So I look at a lot of, like professional sportsmen, what they do, what I can incorporate into my training. So like, I'll mention two that I kind of look at a little bit more is Lee Zhao Jun, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And his like style of training, and then another one who's a YouTuber called Craig Ritchie, who's the owner of Hustle Made, the t-shirts that I wear a lot. So it's a lot of that. So it will be a lot of so when I'm doing cleans or clean and jerks, I'll do a front squat, a squat movement. That will be front squats or back squats. I'll do a pull movement. So that's normally like a snatch grip dead pull or a clean grip dead pull. Then I'll get into some like complexes, so clean jerks. So it'll be like a clean double leg jerk or something like that.
Yeah.
And then tool cleans, so just from the hip, just to practice getting underneath the bar, getting that speed and movement like pattern, just like getting that repetitive motion, so I can just do it essentially.
Okay, that's really cool actually. So, again, we spoke about which we will go into, is quality over quantity, and what you're obviously speaking about there is you find the right exercises, but you work obviously accessory work alongside that to make it better. So for you, you're talking about a bit more quality over quantity, and why is that? Why do you take that kind of that route? Is it because you spoke about, is it the style of training you do? You find it's better to progress by having the quality lifts, and obviously with the Olympic lifting, it's a bit more technique based as well. So is that your thought process behind it?
Yeah. So with everything, I tend to reset after I do a movement, and obviously if I'm doing if I'm doing squats 3 for 4 sets of 3 as opposed to 4 sets of 8, I'm not resetting, so I'm not building that motion up, I'm not building that muscle memory in order to do it. Obviously with like a greater capacity, you will obviously build that up over time. It's just I like to focus on, or with the heavier lifts as well especially, is getting my technique correct, getting the, like if I'm deadlifting, for example, I'm not touch and going, I'm lowering the bar back down and resetting, getting into the correct posture, and then going again. I find that with touch and go reps, if I'm doing power cleans, for example, I'm just touching and going, my form will go. And when my forms are more susceptible to injury. Whereas if I'm doing the lift, dropping it back down, resetting and going back up, I can get the technique right. I can get, I can essentially lessen my chances of injury just because I suffer with quite a bad lower back. So it's more, I'm not lifting my back, I'm lifting with everything.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So the injuries are another thing for quality performance.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I have a bad back at the moment, so trying to get that around doing cleans and doing snatches, which can, if you're extending at the hip first, is all going to be lower back based, and it's just not what I want. So I'm trying to limit that.
Yeah, obviously with doing bad form and everything.
For doing it, but
yeah, exactly. So again, doing the lift bad can be, potential to cause an injury. Obviously, with under heavy load, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And like you're saying, when you touch and go, as you see with a lot of people who kind of do that technique, the form does slip out because kind of just bounce, in which again doesn't get you in a correct position. Again, some people can master it, which is really, really good. So it is the case of doing that. But like in your sense, it is really good just to reset and go from there, which you find more beneficial. But also with an injury as well, you're thinking, behind the scenes a little bit, and don't want to cause anything worse further from that point. Which is really, really cool. It's a good way to think about it as well. A lot of people with injuries just kind of like crack on and don't really look at that side of things. They think, okay, I need to do the exercise, but performing it correctly also makes a huge difference towards that, which some people kind of let that slip, which is a huge important thing as well. So obviously you're a bit more quality side of things over quantity. Do you think there is ever a time for quantity being the better part of those two things there? For what reason?
I think it's heavily based on your type of training style. I mean, for me, quality is better over quantity, but in terms of a CrossFitter, I put that in terms just because it's the metabolic conditioning side. You're probably looking at quality over quantity, just because of the aerobic capacity base, the amount of reps that you have to do. If I'm competing, the only rep that I'll have to do is one.
Yeah.
If you're looking at an EMOM or something or whatever, you might have 20, 30, 40 of them to do within a specific time range. But no, like quality. No, we're talking quantity now, aren't we?
I think you got that mixed up a little bit. So quantity over quality for like an EMOM.
I will do more reps depending on what type of training. Like I've got in my style of training, I'll do my 4 main exercises with the accessory work and then move on to like more bodybuilding kind of stuff. So if I'm doing VHDs, if I'm doing tricep pull downs, incline dumbbell bench press, I'll go for more quantity over the quality just because I know what I'm doing in those certain areas. But it's also just to build up that muscle, build up that hypertrophy in order to aid in my Olympic lifting.
Yeah, which obviously they coincide, do help with each other, so it's very important to do so. Again, there's another question to think about. Obviously, your style of training compared to like obviously the endurance and aerobic sort of stuff when it comes to the EMOMs, metcons, and capacity sort of work within CrossFit. Obviously, we're speaking about the quantity is probably a little bit more important there, but do you not think quality is also just as important to, again, we're talking about injuries and everything like that? Do you think it's not as important as quantity still in that manner? Even though they do more reps, do you not think quality is going to be better? One, they do get judged in it in competitions and stuff like that. And again, you can also look at CrossFit being criticised for bad form and whatnot. So do you not think that's also a priority? I know that's obviously a contradiction kind of statement, saying it does get looked at. So does bodybuilding, so does other sports, but
yeah, I think everything's judged to a certain degree. I mean, if you look at Murph,
yeah,
they just say it's 100 pull-ups, 200 press-ups, and then 300 squats. I mean, to squats, it's just a parallel, but for, it's the parallel, just chest to ground, and then it's shin over the bar, but then you're doing the butterfly pull-ups, in which that will help you with your quantity. If you're looking at doing strict, it's going to massively increase your time on it. But I think there is some sort of relationship between the quantity of the quality of what you're doing towards the quality, in terms of you want to be getting that movement pattern correct in whatever you're doing. So if you're just muscling the bar up, you're going to be expending a lot more energy, as opposed to if you're doing, the proper hip contact, the proper thigh contact and drive. And if you can master that, but get it within the quality, you're not going to have to think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
In terms of, you've got the schema, which is the motor program, in order to do it. So if you can get the quality to a certain point of where you want it to be, then the quantity is something you can work on as well within that rep range, whatever rep range is set. So if you're doing cleans, you can get the movement pattern correct. If that makes a whole lot of sense, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're muscling up, it takes a bit more time, power, and obviously you may get to X amount of reps, but you then start to find it harder to do that certain movement. But then if you follow through the pattern, get the technique a little bit better, obviously it flows a little bit better, therefore you can achieve a bit more reps by doing so. So yeah, obviously the quality there is highly recommended, but at the same time you don't have to be 100% at it to then get the quantity that you needed.
Yeah. If you look at Matt Fraser, for example, he comes from that Olympic weightlifting background. You can see that he has the technique drilled, but that's where also the strict work comes into CrossFit, and not just your aerobic capacity, for example.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, actually.
Being able to work on that. It's not well explained, but you get what I'm trying to.
No, of course, yeah. So they both kind of do coincide with each other, but obviously there's areas where quality may be needed and quantity is also needed at the same time. But again, that's preferably per goal, or due to injury, lifestyle factors. So there's a lot of debate between which one's better, isn't there?
I think you should work on the quality of the movement before you start working on the quantity of the movement, not quantity of the movement versus the quality of the movement, because then you set bad practices, which are quite hard to correct over time. Because I used to have very bad form in both my snatching and my clean and jerking, where I was literally just trying to muscle it up. Now I'm working more on the technique. It's taken me back a little bit, but it's serving me better in the long run.
Cool. That's a really good, really good point there, which makes a lot of sense. And I think listeners will obviously probably would follow that advice at the same time as well. So I think this is probably a kind of rhetorical question, but nonetheless, I'm going to answer it towards the diet and training for yourself. Is it still a learning process for you?
Massively.
Okay. And do you think you ever get to a point where you would be like, okay, I've mastered this now, it's just a rolling ball sort of thing?
I think it will get to a point within my diet where I'll say, look, I've mastered this. I know what I'm doing now. I know that if I want to increase what I'm doing, I need to do this. If I need to decrease what I'm doing, or decrease the amount of body weight, for example, or body fat, should I say, I need to do this. If I'm wanting to perform, I need to do this, whatever. I mean, I kind of know what to do that now just through my education and whatnot. It's just actually doing it.
Yeah.
The psychology behind eating and everything is just a bit all over the place. In terms of actually training, I don't think I'll ever be able to get to a point where, I've mastered this. I think there will always be something to learn, or something that I need to work upon. There will never be a pit where, what you're doing is better, for example. Like, I'm sure in your training, there's still areas that, you could say that you haven't mastered, or you haven't, necessarily got to a point where you say that you've officially mastered the movement.
Yeah, I think it for a lot of things as well. Not in terms of just doing it, but also coaching it. I think it's another point of view of how to master something. Again, you can look at all aspects like business, sales, marketing. Again, I think there's always a learning curve where there's always improvement needed. And again, if start for training, you'll find, I think it always get to a point where you go, oh, I look back on that, and even though I thought it was okay, I've now learned it's probably better to progress and do it this way, for instance. Or I think there's always education to master it, and to also like feel it yourself, let alone just like thinking you get it done, doing it properly, but then mastering that at the same time. And then obviously it's a knock-on effect for other stuff you do. So for myself, a style of training, again, since I started, I've always been open of saying that what I do and what I say is probably not the best of the best. And there's always progression there. And obviously that's where we go for like the basics of where we're trying to explain it and whatnot. And I always find myself that I'm always progressing and feeling it a bit different the next time I do it. And it's always progression there itself. So
did you ever look back at like videos of you doing something beforehand and realizing how bad that, the actual movement kind of, if you like self-analyze yourself with that kind of training?
There's always, I wouldn't say, if I look at other people who just started out in terms of like, deadlifts and stuff like that, where
no, I mean like if I'm like, I've got videos on my Instagram of me doing a clean and jerk, and then I've got one recent of me, and I look back at thinking, I remember thinking at that point in time when I posted that my lift was really good there. All my progression from that point to that point was really good, but now I look at it from my perspective, from where I am now, and think that was really bad. That could have been improved. Like, I wasn't experienced, but I was experienced in that time. But now that I have more experience, I can realize what I've done wrong within that movement, slow it down, and see where I'm going wrong, or see where the lift is inefficient.
Definitely.
Performance.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a valid point. I think everyone does, if I'm totally honest. I wouldn't say, especially from my cleans and stuff like that, I'm happy, for instance, to post it up and whatnot. But I know there's still improvement. But then I would say I was happy with that, really good what I'd done there. But not all the time I think there's improvement, but sometimes I go, okay, that was good, I'll post it up. Or, I save it, I was happy with that. But then, again, like you said, the next time I do a video and look back at it, I'll be like, cool, I have improved, or there has been an improvement and it is better. So, I think most people do. You probably see it over like TikTok and Instagram all the time, where I see it quite a lot of like the cleans and snatches and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, look at me now, and then they like skip a year and then they just like perfect or like hugely improve their technique, which you see by like the post and the caption and stuff like that. They're super happy about, and they know they've improved in that. So I think a lot of people do that, and look back at what they kind of done, which is good, which should be done. Even just like video referencing yourself, for instance, and just looking at how you've done it, and trying to improve it. It's always the better thing, rather than thinking you perfected it. Right. Diet training, quantity over quality, quality over quantity. Again, another thing we're going to speak about is kind of like rest days. Okay. Are they important in your opinion?
Yes, massively so.
Okay,
And
do explain.
and I recognized this yesterday when I was at the gym trying to do another PB. Realizing that from what was it, Monday, that we did the 1RM back squats.
Yeah.
I went for a 1RM front squat yesterday, and for what should have been, well, not necessarily an easy lift, but one that I should have got, it didn't go back up. In which I think that, you know, rest days are incredibly important, not just from a physical side, but from also a mental side as well.
Yeah, all aspects of recovery.
Just recovering. If you don't take any rest days, you're not going to be building anything. You're just going to, you know, keep going away, and you're more likely to get injured. And obviously with the rest, different things are happening within your body that are going to help. I mean, if you look at sleep, for example, it's probably one of the most important things. But in terms of rest, you actually need the rest in order to recuperate, in order to regenerate certain things that you would have lost. And then also I can't think of how to explain this. But in order to generate certain bodily functions, that sounds really bad now that I've said
that. As soon as you relieve yourself, you're, you know, super recovered from that point. I'm joking.
Not from that perspective, but just certain things that are happening within your body. You need the rest in order to have the most available to you for the next time that you come to train. But for me, I take the weekends off. I'm still kind of active, but I'm not doing anything that's going to put me under a lot of stress.
Okay, so we can also look at the recovery between your exercises. Like for yourself, you've timed it well in terms of the rest between each exercise, how many sets you do, the length of your training sessions, and also your split in terms of how you've used your 5-day split to effectively do those movements efficiently to then have the recovery on the weekend, which again allows you to go next week and do the same thing again. Where some people again don't listen to it and then kind of keep pushing, which is not always the best thing. But then if you tell them to take a step back or you know do less, it sometimes is beneficial. More isn't always better in terms of that, is it?
No, but I think it's also quite important just to listen to your body.
Yeah.
And just if you feel achy, you're more susceptible to injury. Like if you don't feel, you know, motivated or necessarily good about going to the gym, then you probably, like, it sounds bad, but you probably shouldn't on that day. Like I was questioning whether to go to the gym yesterday, for example. I went to the gym and had a fairly bad workout, if you get what I mean. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I dropped a barbell on my head just because of how fatigued I was.
Yeah. And what was that on, the push jerk, was it not?
That was on a push press.
Push press, sorry.
Well, I went into the gym saying to myself, you're going to hit a PB today. In retrospect, I haven't trained on a Tuesday in the last 3 weeks.
So it makes a bit of a difference there then.
Yeah. Just listening to my body and thinking, you know, maybe you shouldn't today. Maybe you should just, you know, give today a rest and then come back fresh.
Yeah, it's hugely important. I think rest is hugely important. I think you've made some valid points there as well. You also spoke about sleep alongside that as well. Is that something that you focus on? And obviously, I think it's very important as well. But what's your opinions on that?
You need a minimum of 7 well, 6 to 8 hours, I think, is what the recommended amount. The last time I got that, I can't remember.
How much did you sleep last night till 11:30 this morning or this afternoon? What time did you fall asleep?
I don't really want to say because it's quite embarrassing.
Assume like 2 or 3 o'clock.
I am that person that stays awake scrolling on their phone till whatever time, just because I don't fall asleep very quickly. I mean, it takes me if I put my phone down, it will take me an hour to get to sleep. I'm not one of those people that can just fall asleep instantly, but that has just turned into my sleep schedule, I guess.
So yeah, you've got a routine of just doing that as well.
Yeah, but it's even on weekends when I have to work and be at work for 6 a.m. I'm still falling asleep at 2 o'clock. So
do you find that impacts you for your work? Do you feel sleepy? Do you feel tired, fatigued, whatever? Does that make a difference?
I'll be fine when I'm working, but as soon as I stop working, I will drift off and have a nap.
Yeah.
But that's also one of the other things that a lot of people kind of don't realize how good they are for you are naps.
Yeah.
Just because your body is in a state of complete rest. So even after that, I mean, if you can afford to take a nap, take a nap. As bad as that sounds.
Yeah. I think it's time and points where naps are really important.
If I could sleep more, I probably would sleep more. And I've tried finding ways of, trying to have a better quality sleep. I mean, I wear a Fitbit, which tells me how long I've slept, where apparently I've gone into REM, light and deep sleep.
Yeah.
But then I've also tried listening to rain music, tried searching for melatonin, to increase my melatonin and cortisol levels. But no, I'm just a bad sleeper, which is annoying, but dealing with it, I kind of have to do it. If I could sleep for 8, 9, 10 hours and recover fully, then I would. But it's just not something that comes easily to me.
Okay, so you obviously spoke about things you try to do. Is there things that you've looked at but haven't done to improve your sleep, for instance?
I mean, I think putting my phone down earlier really helped.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
Earlier. Waking up earlier, so I'm going to bed earlier, might also help. I'm just not a morning person.
Have you looked into something like blue light blockers? Obviously, your phone has a bit of a system where it has an orange tint to it, but obviously it still affects you. TV screens, laptops, everything like that. Again, has a big effect on your sleep, and obviously, you've also got into a routine of it, and you have that time to wake up later, so it doesn't affect your next day. And until it comes to the weekend, obviously, it slightly affects your sleep and how you feel the next day for work. But again, throughout the week, it's okay. So obviously, with that impact, and you go, oh, I'm a little bit tired after work. You do have those naps, but is there ever a thought crikey, I know rest is really important. I know recovery is really important, and how important sleep is. I'm not getting the best out of it. I've tried some stuff. Is that where you stopped, or have you kept trying? Is it like a love-hate relationship? What was it towards you?
Very much a love-hate relationship. I will just look, a lot of the time, I'll just look past it and just try and carry on with it. But that's the same with anything that I'm really doing. It's my back injury, I'll just go through it. It is a love-hate relationship, but I went through periods of changing it. I went through a period of waking up at 8 and going to bed at 10 and getting back, almost a 10-hour sleep at one point, but that's since gone out the window as well. But it's just falling back into old habits.
Yeah. I think it's the same with anything, but bad habits obviously make a huge impact of what you're trying to do. Obviously, my style of coaching is trying to be sustainable with the changes you're trying to do. So do you feel like with those changes, you obviously jumped into them too quick and therefore found it hard to sustain that?
Yes and no. I mean, I I sustained it for a month and then went back into it. But I go through periods of where sleep will be fine, but training will be bad. But training will be at other times training will be good and sleep will be bad. But like I get an average of 6 to 7 hours, I guess, and not that upper end of 8 to 9. But it's just something that I've almost learned to deal with over time and just adapt to that. Like I'm not expending lots of energy throughout the day, so it almost kind of makes up for it. Like there's days where I'll realize I haven't had enough sleep, and then fairly long days. But it's just become routine now. Is I go to bed at 2, wake up at whatever time in the morning that I need to wake up at, and just kind of deal with it throughout the day.
Just deal with it.
It's literally that. Obviously, I want to change. Like I'd love to be able to go to bed at 11, half 11 in the evening, and wake up at stupid o'clock in the morning, and just build that routine. But I just think if I'm going to do that, then it's just going to be a long period. But that's kind of what I'm doing with my training at the moment. I'm not jumping into anything quickly, but I'm just building it up over time, which I think I should take with my sleep schedule and my rest and whatnot. I mean, I'm
like you said, it is very important for sleep. So something I advise to look into. Again, my sleep's not amazing, and sometimes I do find it hard, but I have somewhat of a routine. But that side, you said you had obviously the watch, which helps you and tracks what you're doing. Did you get that for that purpose, or if not, like regardless, is it still beneficial for you to have that, and you find it works?
I think I got it just because I wanted to have some sort of feedback on what I was doing throughout the day, just to see how many steps I was doing, what my heart rate was at any given time. I guess part of it was to do with losing body fat and seeing how many calories I was burning out throughout the day, not realizing that they actually are awful for doing that, and they don't do jack with any part of that, and it's just an absolute hoax because they can't measure it they're not accurate.
They're not pinpoint, are they?
And I know that, but it's just to give me some sort of measurement or some kind of idea of what I'm doing throughout the day.
Yeah, it's a good little indication. I think I have the same kind of thought process about that, where again we know it's inaccurate, not pinpoint of how it measures it, but regardless, if you have something, I've got like some cheap £25 one that does a very similar job. It has quite a lot of things to do, workout steps, heart rate, everything like that, like you mentioned. But even though it's probably not the same like result as something else or another brand doing the same thing, I know that if I keep looking at this, it's going to give that consistent result from what it's tracking, so I can then lead my adjustments from there. So I'm assuming you're the same kind of thought process about that.
Similar thing to what similarly, yeah. I mean, it can gather just where I'm at during any kind of training session, but it's more to do with my heart rate and just make sure that I'm working within a specific range.
Yeah.
Or just make sure I'm working under what my max should be. Like I can see from much of my training sessions that I average around 120 heartbeat, which I think is all right for what I'm doing. Obviously, with the more anaerobic head workouts, or the ones that I'm just not doing a lot of, just to see what the heart rate does go up to.
So when we did that other day, do you remember what heart rate you kind of got to, if you were tracking that at all? I think it was like a 10-minute email or something, wasn't
it? Yeah, the one with 50 squats, 50 push, the 50, 50, 50, 50.
Oh yeah, 200 total, yeah.
The 200 total one, I think I reached a 176 heart rate or something like that. It was in the 170s. I know that. That 10-minute one, I don't even want to think about what it got to be quite honest. I think it was in the 190s, which for me isn't good. But yeah, like, if I was to train in that region more, then it would be lower. I have a fairly good resting heart rate, which is surprising.
You want to share what that is?
It's like 60.
Yeah, not bad. That is good.
Which is a fairly good. Like, I did all my measurements and everything a while ago, and everything was in that specific range. Obviously, there are measurements that are not, which we're not going to go into. But no, like within heart ranges, I'm fine. It's just that upper end that I struggle with.
Which obviously
I haven't trained it.
Exactly, your training style is completely different to that, so you're not accustomed to it. And likewise for me, I'm more into the strength and kind of more bodybuilding side of things, I suppose. So yeah, like my style of training has completely gone off that. Yes, I'm trying to get into it a little bit more. I find it harder. Again, I used to do rugby and sports, everything like that. So I probably was up to that stage at one point, gone off it.
Which I was as well.
Yeah. So it's just getting accustomed to it. If you were to do it, obviously you got accustomed to a bit more Olympic lifting. Obviously to start off with, it's quite challenging, and then obviously you get used to it a little bit more, which is good. That's cool. So obviously rest is really important. Alongside that, let's look a bit more of a training aspect of it. Let's look at deloads a little bit more. Do you utilize them? And if so, do you find them beneficial at all?
I haven't since a couple of blocks ago when we were at the Fit Hub. The Fit Hub used to do, I remember doing deloads at the Fit Hub, but I haven't used a deload this year. I just progressively overload it each and every week, which I find works for me. But no, I don't utilize them. I think they are good in terms of other training.
Okay.
If I'm going for, like, I know the science behind it and why they're good. Do I use them though? Not necessarily. I probably should. Before a PB, like, it's a lot of things. I mean, I'm a very much as do as I say, not as I do kind of guy. But no, like, there's specific areas where a deload would be good. Within strength training, within endurance training, within any type of pre-competition training, I think is the best areas in which, I mean, obviously, if you were going to enter a competition, you're not going to be trying to perform personal best before that week.
Right. Yeah.
Just in case you do something to yourself. But at the moment, no, I'm not doing any deloads.
But obviously, you spoke about beforehand. You spoke about how you have to listen to your body at the same time, which is obviously crucial for when you want to implement a deload. Is obviously for the rest of the recovery side of things, but it's also listening to your body. Does your body actually need it, or is it something that you can just continue doing and progress with your kind of your split, for instance? So obviously this year, you said you've done it beforehand, but this year you haven't. So is it something that, again, your body's been okay with for this year, and you haven't had to utilize that sort of deload sort of thing?
I mean, I say that I did take, I think it was 2 weeks over Christmas just to recuperate and get myself back into a place where I thought, I'll get it on this. Saying that, I am taking a week next week, just to, well, not like a proper but just going
Okay, we were cutting up there, so give it a second. Hopefully, come back in.
Trying to feel it in my knees where I've been doing everything quite heavy, if that makes sense.
Do you just want to say that again, because you just broke up a little bit? Obviously, you just got to the point where you had your knees and stuff and whatnot. But yeah, what did you say before that? If you don't mind repeating.
No, just taking a bit of a lighter week next week. Obviously, my knees are starting to feel it where I'm squatting a lot of the time, and fairly heavily as well. So it's it'll be more of a quantity over, well, lighter quantity, as opposed to a heavier quantity. I think next week will be anyway.
Yeah, that's good.
Just so I'm not injuring myself more than I necessarily should be.
Because obviously we've got testing week at the hub itself anyway, so that in itself is quite a lot of volume, especially how we kind of do it. We just focus on the exercise and kind of see what we can do from that point. So it is for a lot of people, for people starting out as well, it's beneficial, even if they don't know the signs that their body's telling them. It could be good just to let them know, cool, this is what a deload is. It's probably beneficial that we do this now, and then see how you feel afterwards. And then you can obviously see the signs of how it benefits you and when you need it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear my phone.
Listen to my body. Have you got a phone call that you need to attend?
Oh, it's my home phone. I didn't think it would be in the background, but it is. We'll ignore that. Okay, so let's move on to. Okay, we kind of answered the next kind of question I had, is when to utilize it. It's obviously when, for you, what you're trying to say is listen to your body, and then obviously that's when you should be kind of inputting that, which is cool.
So that's where like RPE comes in and all of that stuff.
Yeah, different aspects of your training split.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's cool. If I'm bad one week, then I'll just alter it.
Just kind of go over anything and everything that you want to speak about. So is there any topics that fitness wise that you kind of have interest in or want to speak about, or anything like that?
In fitness, I don't really know.
Is there anything you followed? So obviously let's look at CrossFit. You're a little bit into Olympic lifting. The open workouts, have you been following them? And if so, what do you think?
Like the open workouts, I just feel like you're insane when you try them, just because they look at them, and I'm just like, how does I look at Noah Olsen, for example, and how quickly he did some of that. But it's just like to do, what is it? The 100 no, it wasn't 100 deadlifts.
Yeah, it was 100 deadlifts, 100 burpees over bar.
Okay, it was.
In total, yeah, I think it was.
Less than 10 minutes. I can't quite, like, it looks easy.
Yeah.
And I'll say that because it you're only doing deadlifts and burpees. You actually try and do it within a time capacity and you're screwed. I think it was Friendly Fran, in which I saw Eddie Hall try and do it. Now, this might have not been Friendly Fran, actually. It might have been something else. But he had to do handstand press-ups, which for a guy of Eddie Hall's size to do handstand ups is just like,
I'm sure it probably isn't the strength side of things. It's probably just like the movement itself is probably like absolute absurd for him. Nonetheless, like 100 kilo deadlift, he'd probably do it one-handed and probably find that quite acceptable, because you've probably seen videos of him. He like reps the stuff out. He reps shoulder press out and stuff like that. Yeah. But I can't imagine him doing the 22.3 and getting the muscle ups and everything like that.
No, I mean, what was it? I saw him do. I don't know what the name of it. It's 30 clean and jerks, I think it is, for time.
Right.
And he broke that record from whoever did it. But I think it's like a 60 kilogram barbell, which for him, he presses that with one hand.
Yeah, he does. That's a video I saw recently. 2 dumbbell, 6 kilos each, and he was just repping them like it was nothing.
It's also him. He's boxing store, isn't it?
I believe it's this weekend. Yeah, I think it's this weekend.
See the press conference?
Yeah, it was. I saw some comments, and it was like, What's the norm? What's that normally called for like professional boxers? It's called something, but it was like this version of Wish that they ordered it from for the interview, and it was quite a funny comment.
Did you see that apparently Thor spat at him?
Spat?
Yeah.
No, when was that?
Spat in his face, I think.
I've just seen clips, that's all.
At the press conference.
Oh.
Where is it? Thor.
I saw the altercation when Eddie went to the gym. Oh, that was it. Oh, they spat each other out of the gym. Okay.
Yeah. Admits to spitting on Eddie Hall during heated first face-off.
Oh, it's quite funny. And it is this, it is this weekend. I can't say that I'm going to pay for anything to watch that, and I will just watch clips afterwards. Who do you think's going to win out of that then? I see a lot of comments thinking Eddie, but I don't know if that's just because it's the posts I look at are very English people, British people that follow it. But
I mean, if you look at it size-wise, Eddie Hall looks a lot bigger than Thor at the moment.
Which I think Thor spoke about and called him like some fat guy, some fatty or something, and then Eddie literally spat out and said something like got anorexic, blah blah blah. I don't want to say that on it, but it was.
Do you see the Photoshop that? I don't know whether it was Photoshop, but the thing that Hall posted about it.
No.
Like how he looked.
No, is that on his Instagram or something?
Yeah. It's on his Instagram.
Okay, have a quick look.
He got called out by so many people. I think it's on his Instagram anyway. He got called out for so many people for photoshopping the photo of Thor.
Oh, really? Eddie Hall.
You might have to scroll a little bit.
So just going back, it may have taken it down by the looks of things, but
yeah.
Is it recently, or do you think it's quite a while back?
It was fairly recently. Although he might have put it on the story, which is where I was getting it from.
Okay, yeah, maybe. I mean, he's looking like a big guy, but do you think that's going to make a difference? He's obviously been training for it for a while, hasn't he? So, Thor thinks he's going to have an advantage.
They're training for something else now, aren't they? They're not training for what they're used to. So I think it's going to be a fairly interesting competition.
I'd like to see how
Eddie Hall.
Go on.
Would I like Eddie Hall to win? Of course I would, because he's a Brit.
Yeah.
But I think if you're from anywhere other than Britain, you're probably voting for Thor to win it.
Yeah. I mean, Thor does look very impressive in terms of his weight loss and muscle loss. Yeah, in terms of that. But again, you see videos of Eddie that, again, he hasn't posted loads, but the ones he has, he does look agile, quick, and, quite strong. Yeah. He's kept his strength. He's kept his size, which he's probably using to his advantage. So, again, he can probably slip something, get inside, and then probably use his advantage with the strength side of things. It'd be quite beneficial. Is that the only boxing you watch, or do you watch other stuff as well?
I mean, I don't watch. I think the last boxing match that I probably watched was the one between McGregor and Mayweather.
Okay.
And that was years ago. But simply just because I'm asleep at the time that boxing normally comes on.
It's horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah. But no, I think the only other sport I really watch is F1. If you can classify it as a sport.
Yeah, well, I go fishing and people mimic do the same thing for that. So I go, that's not really a sport. Well, I agree with them. To be fair, you're kind of just sitting around a lake and then you're kind of like, just plopping out your rod.
The only difference with fishing is I've never seen it on a sports channel.
It has been, I think. Yeah, it's only when it's been competitions. But apart from that, yeah, you don't see it on anything else like a casual thing. It's literally just if it's one match sort of thing. But yeah, that'd be it. But F1, yeah, looks very good. Obviously, you see Drive to Survive on F1, which it's been good. We can speak about this a little bit.
It's been good, but they're just making things out of molehills for some of them.
Yeah, I was speaking to
one episode.
Go on. No, please, you first.
Well, no, it was in. Oh, I can't remember. It was the episode in which Daniel Ricciardo won Monza, in which they had Verstappen as the winner of the sprint race when in fact Bottas actually won it. So they've changed that.
Yeah.
They've made it look like Esteban Ocon is a rookie when he's actually been in F1 since what, 2016. I mean, I guess he's missed a year, but still he's fairly good. And then the Nikita Mazepin episode, in which they made him look like a tactical genius in putting intermediate tyres on.
Sooner than anyone else. Yeah.
And sooner than anyone, because apparently he knows the skies in Russia. And then for his engineer to come on, yeah, congratulations, you've beaten Mick and Latifi, when in fact both Mick and Latifi had retired, and he came in 18th. So he came last, so it didn't actually matter what he did.
That was so funny, yeah.
Well,
he could have stayed on like anything but intermediates and still became 18th and would have made a difference, yeah. By that point, but it's quite funny. I was speaking to someone else about it as well, Levi, from the gym, and he was saying it's a bit that this season has been a bit Hollywood in terms of how they've drastically changed the way it looks, in terms of being a bit biased to some stuff, but like you're saying, changing the actual story of things and making people look bad, make people look good, which it has been, to be fair.
That F1 troll page that you
I
looked at? Have you seen what they posted this morning?
I haven't.
About it. I think it was this morning anyway, about how it was create a fake, like, not like a fake war, but a fake argument between Norris and Ricciardo, and then make Yuki and Ocon worse than they are, or seem worse than they are, and then
trying to flick through it.
Have the other guy, where is it? I can't spell troll apparently.
I don't know. I just find this page absolutely hilarious. If someone wants to follow it, it's just F1 troll _ on Instagram. If you follow F1, and it is just hilarious, especially since Drive to Survive has been out. They have just upped their game in terms of content and memes. It's truthfully very, very funny.
Where is it?
It's all about the Gunther one where he's got a boat and he's just an absolute unit. Yeah. That's why people hate you. It's just too good. That was a Mazepin one as well, where it goes Mazepin putting on rain tyres before anyone else. I see if I can put the I don't know if you can see that at all. You can't see the outline, but it's a guy eating the gold medal. And then the next one is like Netflix. Mazepin will finish ahead of Mick and Latifi because they were both DNF. And then it's him on the podium with 1 and 2, and he's like P18. It is quite hilarious. Oh
god. Yeah, here it is. The latest one. It's like, okay, team, we need ideas to make Drive to Survive Season 4 entertaining. We could fake a rivalry between Lando and Danny Ricciardo. We could fake a rivalry between Esteban and Yuki. The 2021 season was the best we've seen in years. We should just show us as then he gets thrown out the window. And I was like, just leave it as it is. Like,
oh yeah, I can see that one.
I remember watching it. I remember watching the entire season, and I'm thinking, this is actually pretty good. But I'm just waiting for the final episode, knowing how controversial that's going to be.
Yeah, it'd be good to see how they actually put it across, won't they? In terms of who's they've got to be unbiased at that point. They can't say, oh, one person's better. Yeah, they've got to be unbiased. There's no way Netflix can be like, oh, that's very controversial, and obviously, people got it wrong and whatnot.
The most controversial things have come out of Formula One in the last few years, anyway.
Do you ever remember seeing what the view count was for that final race? It was something mad. It was a pretty big view count. So a lot of people actually tuned in for that last race. Do you think like Drive to Survive has been well, I think it has, but do you think it has been an impact on F1 getting more fans?
Oh, massively. But you can just see from like the way that new people have like been introduced to it, like they haven't followed it from whenever it, that they are incredibly biased to some of the drivers and not to others, just from how Netflix make them look. Yeah. I mean, I am a Lewis Hamilton fan, but
So tell me what you think of the last race then. What your opinion is on that, on how that outcome came. It's getting him in his feels. Yeah. It's a knife it's pulling out there, isn't it?
I thought it was unfair. I mean, you can see from the reaction of other drivers as well that it was a bit suspect. Just from the way in which we're only going to have one racing. We're only going to allow the drivers that are between Hamilton and Verstappen to overtake, and none of the other drivers. When I'm pretty sure somewhere in the rules it says all of the drivers have to overtake, and then you restart on the lap where all the other drivers are now caught up to the back of the pack.
Yeah, anyone in front of Verstappen went past him, but then Verstappen then became behind Lewis Hamilton, but no one behind on Verstappen moved.
Verstappen because finished, but I'm pretty sure it has to finish. It should have finished under the safety car.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
But it was also like some of the radio messages between Red Bull, Michael Massey, in which Red Bull have been like heard saying, "Look, we only need one lap. We only need to go racing for one lap," and then Michael Massey saying, "Yeah, I'm seeing what I can do."
Yeah, it's very controversial, isn't it? Which puts it in a bad perspective. And obviously, you had Toto slamming Boss headphones. He's probably got about 5 pairs in the drawer that he can break throughout a race.
Should have won it, but
Do you know what? I'm a fan of both. I like Verstappen, what he's done. It was really good to see him win in terms of a new challenger and a new person, or like a newer face to the F1 in terms of leading the way a little bit. There's going to be a huge competition this season between them two, and it's going to be a massive fight. And I think a lot of fans cannot wait, let alone every other racer who have improved. And obviously, you've got George Russell, Mercedes, and a couple of other changes. But obviously, I think the main show is on Hamilton versus Verstappen and what the first race is going to be like, but also midway through and what the last race is going to be like. Is it going to be the same in terms of how tight of points it's going to be? Or is there, it's going to be more incidents? Is Verstappen going to be, hogging the road and breaking in the line of when he shouldn't be? Is Lewis Hamilton going to tap tires a little bit more? There's lots of, I think, moments which would be good to watch. But for that race, I think, I don't know, I was rooting for Verstappen, but it is very questionable about the decision of how he won, for sure.
Yeah. I think, you look at the two of them and how their driving styles are. I mean, I might be biased as a Lewis Hamilton fan, but even in that last overtake that he pulled into turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, into turn 5, going on the back straight. Even with that overtake, you can see that he's not fully in control. And he's almost dive bombing because he's almost pushed Lewis Hamilton out of the track again in that part.
I mean, Lewis Hamilton did go out of the track at the start of the race, didn't he? Or I think near the start of the race.
Yeah.
Which was controversial as well.
Which is controversial, but you've seen, he's still ahead going into that corner.
Yeah.
But Verstappen has pushed him out of the track.
Verstappen does love to do that.
In which he stayed in first place because of that. You look at the events of Saudi Arabia, Hamilton was ahead going into the first corner, but Verstappen has, like, even Lewis Hamilton has made the effort to stay on the track. Like, a lot of the time, it's just like, don't get me wrong, Max is a very, very good racer.
He's very aggressive, though, isn't he?
Yeah, whereas Lewis Hamilton is aggressive but knows when to pull out.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the race at Silverstone in going through Copse Corner, in which Hamilton, for the first time in his career, hasn't pulled out.
That's what she said.
For the first time, he hasn't pulled out, and he's made a challenge, and he's fully alongside him. And you can see that from the videos. But Verstappen has obviously taken the racing line and tried to, hit the apex as much as he can. Lewis Hamilton is, I think, whatever he's done, yes, he's somewhat at fault and he deserved the penalty that he got. But he's fully alongside him and Max is giving him the space. He pulled the exact same move as Leclerc on Leclerc, and no accident has come out of that. So you're just thinking, at what point, like, is it fine? Is it racing? I mean, the event in Italy, the track that's in the corner has gone over the curb and landed on Hamilton's head.
It's so funny because he didn't even apologise or see if he's okay.
No,
just fucking walked off, didn't he?
Away.
Yeah. Which is
to be fair,
pretty bad.
Hamilton did the same at Silverstone, in which that was a horrific crash.
Yeah, they're both really bad, nonetheless. But and that halo is an absolute lifesaver. I think whoever designed that is super needed now, and it's a big aspect of why it is needed. Yeah.
I mean, you can see that from. Did you watch the Bahrain Grand Prix last year?
I probably did. I can't recall it off the top of my head.
The Grosjean fire.
Yes. Yeah.
If he hadn't have had that halo, burning alive. This is going to seem really, really morbid, but burning alive wouldn't have been the least of his worries.
Probably not.
Because he would have been. Yeah, his head would have come off.
It's absolutely a mad story. When watching that, especially on Drive to Survive as well, obviously behind the scenes and obviously the special effects and music, blah blah blah. It was very dramatic, and obviously the video was repetitive in different angles, so it's just so slow to see him come out. But when he did, you're like, fucking hell. Even in like live watching it as well, you're like, it's fucking crazy. You're so lucky that man has done that, and obviously hearing his story as well. And again, you see his interviews and stuff. He's just happy as ever, isn't he? He's just happy to be out.
Yeah. Well, he's back racing as well in IndyCar.
Oh, is he? Oh, crikey.
Yeah, he's racing over in America and winning like IndyCar races.
Good on him.
Which I just find astonishing, considering he nearly both of his hands off.
Yeah, I don't know to what extent how bad they were, but it's obviously he's still got used to them. Now they've recovered a bit more, haven't they?
He's got all the scarring still on his hands. Like I don't know why. And maybe this is just me, but I found it funny that he lost a shoe in the car. It's like when you see him coming out and jumping over the railing, you see one of his missing. I don't know why. I just found that funny. Yeah. But you can also see from like a safety viewpoint just how much it's come along.
Yeah.
Back from when, what is it? Do you remember what Niki Lauda looks like, right?
Yeah.
And all the burns on his face and everything. You look at his helmet from that race to compare to the helmet that Grosjean was wearing. It's night and day, just how much the safety has come along.
Yeah, safety is hugely needed. I think it's always a big aspect of any sport, isn't it?
specific point, it does.
Yeah, I think it's hugely important for safety. Like I said, for any sport, I think more looked at now than ever. Obviously, you see more and more injuries, and obviously, like over time, you see the outcome of certain injuries as well. Again, me looking at rugby aspect of things, I watch rugby quite a bit, and they've come a long way in terms of head injury as well. Looking at how that affects you afterwards. So as soon as you look like you've had a head injury, they're straight away taking you off and processing and see if you have got any concussion or anything similar to that, with obviously the interview and the techniques of doing it, which is mad. It's so good. You don't really get a complaint from that. And even the players are like, obviously they want to be on, but they're not complaining. It is totally like worth it, isn't it?
Yeah, you get that in every single sport. I mean, in cricket, you're taken off straight away, pretty much, under the concussion protocol.
Yeah,
because you want to avoid that second impact at all costs.
Yeah.
But no, concussion is the weirdest feeling in the world. I can tell you that firsthand.
Likewise. I think that's another thing why I stopped rugby a little bit more as well. Or I don't really want to get back into it. I'd love to get back into it. Obviously, you miss what you enjoyed quite a bit, and but yeah, I don't think I want to get back into rugby for the main purpose was that injuries as well. I think just longevity of it is quite crucial. I think I never really had any concussion or anything like that until I got into my college playing days, and then from like one season I got more than that ever had. I probably had like 2 to 3 like concussions throughout that season, which just spooked me after that. From my first one being the worst, and that's one I was completely blanked out of. I supposedly the guy who tackled me literally just arm into my head to tackle me, and I was just on the floor, and then I was doing like some weird arm movements just because my body was just doing it. And then when I can recall the medic coming over and him asking me questions, and I don't know if my eyes were staying closed, but they didn't want to open, and I was like, all I could see is black, and then eventually they started opening, and I was kind of getting with it and felt a bit weird. But then the rest of the times I was just obviously black out for a second and back open again, which is still very rough, but it scares you. I think it scares me for sure. It's rough.
Do you ever throw up?
No. I can't say that I had bad repercussions from it, from that I know of. Again, I think most of the other 2 times that I had it, it was like instant and back up again. So like I'd make a massive hit, for instance. From that hit, I'd black out and be back up, like awakened back into it again. So
yeah,
they weren't the worst. The first one was the worst, and obviously like the other ones were like quite instant. But I know that I was back open again. I was like, crikey, cool, let's crack on with it. So yeah.
The only one that I've ever had landed me in hospital for an overnight stay.
And how did that happen?
And that was at the skate park. Okay. I went in to what was it? It was a half pipe. At the same time that another guy was coming in the other end, lost my balance, went straight into his bars. And I wasn't wearing a helmet because I'd just taken my helmet on. I literally went into the half pipe to go to the other side to get all my stuff and go home. And the guy's coming in from quite a height as well. Didn't see him because there was no one on the half pipe at that point. But went straight into his handlebars. Broke. Well, no, I didn't break it. I fractured from the bridge of my nose down to around here, in which I still don't have any feeling in this part of my double vision. Was lying down. And at that point, I think like the recommended things for people with concussion was not to allow them to sleep.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So every time I closed my eyes, my mate would like hit me with a stick.
That helps. But yeah.
Yeah. Called my mum just to like say, look, something's happened at that age, because they're the first person you think of. I was 13 or 14 at the time. called her when she got me. As soon as I stood up, I threw up, and I continued throwing up until I got to her car, which was like 400 meters away. Was lying down in the car on the way there. Got to A&E. They saw me immediately because of the head injury. Continued throwing up for the hour and a half before they actually saw me.
Oh,
I think
wow.
I threw up within the region of 50 to 60 times. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but that wasn't really how much I threw up. Told the doctor that came in, they were just like, no, we're not happy with this. We're taking you up. Put me on a drip because they thought I was going to suffer with dehydration. Did all the assessments for the concussion. They're like, yeah, you've got one of the worst concussions we've seen. And I was like, oh, lovely.
Just wait an hour and a half for this. Cheers.
Waiting an hour and a half for this with double vision as well, in which my eyes were at different, which was a bit scary. And no one could tell me why I had double vision.
Yeah.
Don't understand it to this day. But there was no marks left on my face. I didn't leave with a black eye, nothing from getting hit in the face. 3 months later, I get hit with a stone in the face. It causes me to have a scar, like a cut on my face and a huge black eye. And I'm like, where's the, like, how does that work? But no, that is the only concussion that I've ever had, touch wood. And it ended up with me in hospital for an overnight stay in 24 hours, which was, you know, and from then I've been pretty much injury prone.
You know, it just repeat itself, doesn't it? To be fair, one of my teammates that I see every now and then, probably the worst concussion I've ever seen in my life, to the point where I don't know if you ever play any team sports, but you literally kind of step away, let the people sort it out, and then your team huddling sort of thing. So he's obviously one end of the pitch, we're the other end of the pitch, and you know something's bad when it's been 5-10 minutes, and you're like, shit, he's not kind of got up, whatever. He practically didn't move. He was still kind of like unconscious from whatever it was, tackle, whatever it may be. Air ambulance came, he goes away, and then ever since, he's obviously still like he come back with it, but he's a different person. Like, he's more aggressive. He's just doesn't know where he is half the time. It's like hugely changed who he is. It's mental what like injuries you can do. It's definitely good for like safety stuff. So like going back to F1, having those features, especially with the incident with Verstappen and Hamilton, it is like a godsend to have that, and especially like at that time for like that will to go over, and you see it just literally save his head from being.
But it still hit him in the head.
I think it. Yeah, I think it.
Verstappen's rear right tire actually conked him in the head. And you hear Hamilton talking about it and how, you know, it kind of made him dizzy. His neck is like, it's a good thing they've got strong necks.
Yeah, I was going to say, he probably like pushed the tire away, give it a little head or something, didn't he?
Headed it away.
Yeah. Get off it. Oh, the phone going.
No, you look at some of the accidents over. Somebody obviously wants you.
Yeah, no, it's not my. It's a family phone for the business, which I ignore all the time. I never pick it up, so I leave that to be. Have you got a map behind you? Is that a?
You look at
the top of your head. Is that a map behind you? A course on the wall. Yeah.
That's Silverstone.
Very nice. There you go. That's how you know you're a true F1 fan.
A Joker painting.
Nice.
Which
gotta love a bit of the Joker, don't you? Yes, mate. What we do, we're
have to say that all again.
Is it broken up for you? Because you're broken up for me as well. Cool. Anyway, I was just saying the Joker's obviously a very good movie. And obviously Silverstone as well.
We've also got a mini Lego figurine of the Joker as well, so you know.
Nice. Big fan?
Yeah, I mean fairly big fan. Obviously I'd like a different Joker painting. But you know. best comic book supervillain ever, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen who the new Joker's going to be in the Batman?
No. I may have done. Go on, do tell. Someone does want me, but again, you're breaking up, so makes it say it again.
Yeah, you did as well. Have you seen who the Batman is going to be in the? No. Have you seen who the Joker is?
Who's going to be in Batman? No, I haven't. I may have seen it, but yeah, do tell.
Have you watched Eternals?
Yeah. Oh god, I hate that movie.
It's the mind reader, or the person that can control people's minds.
He's going to be a Joker.
He's the Joker.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't really base it off Eternals because Eternals for me was very boring. Yeah, I didn't really like them.
As it was for me. But he's got the laugh down, which is a start.
Yeah.
Who is it? Barry. I don't know how you.
Don't ruin it. Don't butcher it.
Barry Cohen, Barry Keegan.
Okay.
Like that. But you know who I mean. Like,
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It's, could be better.
Yeah, but it's a film I highly recommend you watch. It's a bloody long film, but
Batman, you mean?
It's a very, very good film.
Still need to watch it. I will get around to it, but yeah. What I'll do, I'll stop the recording here. We can obviously chat afterwards, but yeah, we'll stop the recording here. So for everyone listening, thank you very much. Again, if you liked it, then do rate it on Spotify or comment, or again on Instagram, anything like that. 1% better _ podcast. Again, just let us know what you think. So thank you very much, Ethan, for jumping aboard and giving us your opinion on some of the topics. Is there anything that you would like to say at all for the end of the video?
No, not really. Just, thank you for having me. Enjoyed it a fair amount. We'll see you next time.